That's great! Become Patreon!
Hey guys, what is going on? Draven here with another Metal Fan Reacts video. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, before we get into the video, I just got done recording this song. It's a 30-minute long video. I do apologize. I won't put timestamps of when the reaction starts to when it ends because I rant for about 6 minutes afterwards. So I do apologize, guys. It'll be timestamped. I appreciate you all. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let's jump into the video. As always, Saturdays and Sundays is going to be reserved for Sabaton History Channel reaction videos, and I'm super excited to jump into my latest Sabaton reaction video to one of their history videos that they make, and they seem to be releasing them every Thursday, so I'm excited to see what other songs they'll be doing. Do have a quick announcement. If you guys saw my previous post that I did, I believe on Thursday, I reacted to 40 to 1 live at the Wacken concert of 2019, and I went through this huge legal copy strike thing with the media group and all this other stuff, and I was letting you guys know that I was battling it and just did all the stuff on the back end. Wasn't trying to fight the media company. I was just trying to use parts of the concert, and I gave them the video, and I told them I have no problem, you know, having them have all the rights to the video. I don't claim any ownership of the material, obviously. If they would be so willing to let me use the concert video or the concert footage. There's a couple of different things that happen on the back end of YouTube. You get a copyright claim, which majority of my channel gets copyright claimed, meaning that the reactions that I do, the monetary value of that, of the ads that run, that money goes to whoever does the copyright claim. In this case, it's going to Sabaton or Sabaton's production, or whoever owns the record label, which I have no problem doing. If that's, you know, that revenue goes straight to Sabaton, that's okay by me. But so it does allow the video to be public. I just don't get any money for it. No big deal. I'm not here for the money. A copyright strike means you get a point against your channel, and you only get 3, and then the video gets removed, and your channel could potentially be banned depending on how bad the copyright strike is. So when I did the 40 to 1 live reaction, it got a copyright strike, which is a big red flag for me, and a big like, oh shit, need to fix things. Anyways, I worked through it, and I just got the notification today that the video of the 40 to 1 got approved by the media company that was originally doing the copyright strike, and apparently they are allowing me to use the video, so without me having to edit it or do anything funky to it. So the original video is live on my channel, and it is ready for you guys to view. That video will be linked there and in the description below, so you guys please check it out. It's not going to gain as much traction as if it got released when it currently was, because it resets the view count to 0. So if you guys can, please go check out the video. I put a lot of time at editing that one, and I showed a lot of clips from a concert I went to, so just if you guys could please check that out, I would appreciate it. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. These Sabaton History Channel ones are a little bit longer, so I do apologize for that longer intro. This one is going to be 80-second all the way with Alvin York. Sabaton History episode 29. I'm excited. Let's jump right into it, and let's check it out.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joaquin from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History!
Yeah.
Yeah!
The American 82nd Division was formed during World War I and was known as the All-American Division.
And our song, 82nd All the Way, is about that division and Sergeant Alvin York.
It is one of my favorite songs from Sabaton. I mean, I like all their songs, to be
For the
honest.
poor of the United States in the
He's looking
19 teens,
shredded.
life was tough everywhere. But deep in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee,
I love that shirt.
where people lived in small communities, distrusted outsiders, and carried guns and knives wherever they went, violence was omnipresent. Growing up as an impoverished farmer's boy there, Alvin York was used to the harsh environment, where people would solve their social tensions or take out their frustrations by drinking, gambling, and brawling. He was no exception, but in 1915, he forsook his violent past and dedicated his life to the Church of Christ. Fast forward 2 years. News of America's entry into the World War reached the little mountain community slowly, and it was not until early June 1917 that the call came to register for the draft. York sent his draft card back, having written on it, "I don't want to fight," and even wrote a letter explaining his religious beliefs that wouldn't allow him to join the war. But the draft board rejected his letter, arguing that the Bible was kind of open to interpretation, and war was a big part of it anyhow. York was left with no choice and was sent to...
So real quick, yeah, I say real quick and I take 2 minutes. Not to get super religious on my channel, because I'm trying to stay pretty open in terms of political views, and I just, I don't do political stuff on my channel. There is a religion here in the United States. Not too sure if it's popular in Europe. I'm not too sure how it works, but there's a religion that here in the United States that does not believe in violence. It's actually it's like almost written in their historical documents to not ever pick up a weapon, to not ever fight, and they will choose to go to jail over fighting in a war. So there were members of this church that got drafted during Vietnam. It was more prevalent. They actually chose to go to jail instead of fighting in Vietnam. That's how strong their religious beliefs were. In Korea, if you are an able body man, I believe women too, you have to serve a minimum of 2 years in the Korean army, and you're eligible as soon as you turn 18, and I believe you have to serve before you're 24 or something like that. And this religion is extremely popular in Korea. So their members actually, when they turn 18, they sacrifice 2 years of their life and go to jail instead of serving. And it's just part of their religious beliefs. I don't believe in the early 1900s religion was as protected as it is now. I'm not too sure when the religious protection started happening more. Now I don't believe in the United States they would send you to jail for because of religious beliefs. I'm not too sure on that. I'm sure in an extreme time of war it might be different. But now the Army's rejecting people left and right, so I don't think there'll be ever a draft anytime soon.
Joined the 82nd Division for basic training in February 1918. Today, the 82nd is famous for its deeds as an airborne division in the Second World War. But back in 1918, they called it the All-American Division, made up of men from all over the states. At first, it had been Southerners like York, but soon the division was filled with men who were considered too troublesome or unruly for other divisions. Many of them recent immigrants from Europe who hadn't been in the country long enough to speak proper English. York was not very popular with the others because of his rigid religious beliefs, especially not with his superiors. But he did what he was told, and that was good enough. He was a natural soldier and a remarkable marksman.
In the draft of 1917, a man from Tennessee. Overseas to the trenches he went, from the land of the free.
They're so
By
good at
September
storytelling.
1918,
It's amazing.
York and the 82nd were in France and had taken part in the Saint-Mihiel offensive. They now prepared to join the great Allied counteroffensive that was to break the German positions in the Argonne Forest. On October 3rd, near the ruins of the village of Varennes-en-Argonne, they marched out. French artillery batteries were shelling the forest, though, and were unknowingly hitting their own troops trapped there. There were even rumors of a lost battalion of men that was surrounded and about to be wiped out in those woods. The American public was waiting for such a story. The big press agencies wanted eyewitness stories from the reporters, and there was a lust for sensation among the public back home, which knew little of the war in Europe and hungered for news and first-hand accounts. For the reporters, it mattered little whether the story was about a hero or was a tragedy. Either made good headlines. But no one could have guessed they were so close to the two biggest American stories of the war. It did not take long for York's battalion to find the enemy. As the doughboys surged forward, they were hit by heavy fire from machine guns and mortars from a place identified as Hill 223. This was a major German position,
sounds familiar.
and York's men were to cover the flank as the hill was taken. But as they were about to mop up resistance in the woods, a German counterattack struck, driving them back up the hill, where a ferocious battle for the crest was fought. The Americans prevailed, but York found himself standing at the top of a hill, surrounded by the dead and wounded. Sleep did not come easy after that, but York sought refuge in the Bible. Through shells of death with all their agitation, thou wilt protect me if I will only trust in thy grace. Bless thy holy name.
There's a lot of great stories that correlated with religious things and military motivations and stuff. Like, there's a lot of really cool stuff in the United States.
The night of October 8th,
different
as
story.
the Lost Battalion, who are
Different
also the
channel.
subject of a Sabaton
Not my
song,
channel.
and who we've already done an episode about, had finally been found and the survivors were leaving the forest, it was York's turn to move back in. It was not until the early morning that they were back at Hill 223, and the German shells were falling again. Under heavy gas attacks and mortar fire, panic began to rise. But panic is best fought off by action. Bayonets first, they rushed into the woods. York's platoon was cut in half by a German machine gun, and the survivors broke off the attack. Despite the terror, York rallied his squad and moved through the thick undergrowth and thorny bushes in an attempt to outflank the enemy position. But the forest was a maze, and the squad soon lost all sense of direction. As they emerged from the next line of bushes, they encountered two German medical orderlies. After a shared moment of disbelief, the Germans bolted. York's men, cursing and firing, gave chase. Running through the woods and thick bushes, they unknowingly went deep into German territory. Having lost the German medics, they emerged in a small clearing with dozens of German soldiers in front of them, chatting or having a meal. A lot of them were shirtless. But as they noticed the Americans with their menacing rifles and bayonets, they threw everything to the ground, threw up their hands into the air. York and his men, greatly outnumbered by their new prisoners, were about to search them when they were spotted by a German machine gun nest. They must have been overzealous bastards, because they began firing into the crowd, hitting friend and foe alike. In the chaos of bullets and screams, York's best friend in the battalion was hit and went down in a pool of blood. That was it. The mild-mannered, God-fearing, Bible-reading Alvin York simply snapped, and anger and fury took over. As everyone else scrambled for their lives, York dashed forward, rifle in hand. He pushed up the hill, circling around the machine gun nest until he was atop a ridge overlooking the German position. York raised his rifle and pulled the trigger. One by one, the Germans went down. York killed them without mercy, but with extraordinary precision, until the machine gun was silenced and 19 dead Germans lay around it. As York took a moment to survey his work, another group of Germans burst from the bushes, bayonets first. Caught off guard, York dropped his rifle and drew his .45 pistol. After shooting the leader from just a few feet away, he kept on killing and killing. Dead Germans lay all around him, and all went silent. The German lieutenant slowly got up, his hands raised. York kept the pistol aimed at the man's head. In a strong German accent, the officer tremblingly said, "If you stop shooting, I will make them give up." York kept his finger on the trigger, staring like death himself into the eyes of the German, ready to end his existence at any moment. Slowly, the German officer took a whistle out of his pocket, blew into it, and then yelled an order towards the bushes behind him. One after the other, German soldiers began appearing from behind the trees and bushes. So did the remaining Americans who had finally caught up with York. Seeing his men, York calmed down for a moment. But then a German soldier threw a hand grenade into the crowd. He missed York. York did not miss him, shooting the man dead on the spot. The other Germans offered no resistance.
That's so badass, dude. I love hearing these stories. I mean, it's morbid in a sense, but it's crazy to have that much courage.
They began leading the column of prisoners back down the way they came, guarding them warily as they were clearly outnumbered. They made their way through the maze of woods, and another German platoon crossed their paths. But they were exhausted and astonished by the situation, and they gave up. A short while after that, they encountered yet another group of Germans who raised their weapons ready to shoot. Only York, pressing his pistol in the back of the German lieutenant, convinced them to think again. And all of them, except for one young German soldier clinging to his rifle, dropped their weapons. York shot the boy dead without hesitation. The column continued. Finally out of the woods, they marched to Hill 223, where perplexed American soldiers stood and watched the spectacle of 132 arriving German prisoners captured by York and a handful of doughboys. The story spread among the men, but the American journalists were, for the most part, busy copying the reports coming from the lost battalion, and the newly promoted Sergeant York remained unknown to the American public for quite a while. York was proud of his deeds. He did, in fact, do what he was told, and he did it well. The war itself, however, remained a mystery to him, and he could not make sense of all the carnage and destruction. In the days after the battle, he walked the forest, accompanying medics and stretcher bearers, looking for survivors among the dead. Where did God fit into all of this? Who was to live and who was to die?
It's a
Mere
fair
chance
question.
or God's will? Did someone guide his hands in this? It was not until April 26, 1919, over half a year later, when the Saturday Evening Post published York's story through a journalist that had heard of him in France a few months earlier. Basically overnight, Alvin York became one of the biggest American heroes ever. He was seen as all-American, as a warrior monk who answered the call to come to America's aid. When York arrived back in the States on May 22nd, he, like the men of the Lost Battalion before him, was greeted with a hero's welcome and was paraded through the streets. Newspapers, magazines, newsreels spread his story far and wide, and he did paid speaking engagements telling his story wherever he went. He received dozens of medals, some from France and Italy, and even the American Congressional Medal of Honor. Money was not an issue anymore, at least for the moment, but York refused many offers from businesses that tried to profit from his fame through advertising. Instead, he would soon return to rural Tennessee and buy a farm, and even open up a Bible school to educate the local youth. Still, though, the thoughts of that fateful day would keep him awake for many nights in his life. Once, he had forsworn violence and given his life to God and the peaceful teachings of his Christianity. He never wanted to go to war. And once he was there, among all the death and destruction, the war had brought back a side of him
Notice the
he
zoom
very
in.
much wanted to forget.
Walls
He would
closing in.
struggle with that for the rest of his life.
Into the forest, penalty of God, not hero to be. Enter the wall from over the sea.
So, 80-second all the way. This is
So I try not to pause it while he's talking because it's just, I don't want to interrupt him. It's weird to say I don't want to interrupt him because I could pause him at any time. But I don't want to pause Andy Nadell when he's speaking just because I almost think it's rude, even though it's a video and I can pause it at any time. I just find it rude to interrupt someone. That sounds weird. I know that probably sounds super weird coming how I'm wording it. But like I mentioned, there's the religious thing. I mean, that's really cool to hear stories like that, at least in my opinion, because I'm like I've mentioned this before, so it's no secret I'm an extremely conservative Christian guy, and I love hearing stories about people who are using their faith to guide them in life. And if you have a faith, great. If you don't have a faith, great. That's not my business. I don't care. And there's hundreds of religions that people draw strength from, and I think it's freaking fantastic. And he was able to use it in a good way, and I know that there's a lot of questions when it comes to war and who's on what side, and it's got brought up in the Band of Brothers, it got brought up in Saving Private Ryan, it definitely got brought up in the Pacific, and I just rewatched all three in the past week. Fantastic TV shows and a movie. Just if you haven't watched it yet, it's freaking-tastic. I'm assuming everyone here's watched it. But it was a question, the same kind of themed question throughout all the movie and the two TV shows. It's just God's on our side, who's on theirs, kind of thing. But I think it's a great story outside of the historical value of what he did of capturing 113. I think he said 113 German soldiers. That's a fantastic thing. The fact that he was able to potentially save, how many lives? I think they do the math like for every one person you kill, you saved 5. For every one person on your team died, it saves hundreds or something. I forget the actual math of it. But the fact that he killed 13 people, Germans, and then captured another 115, he potentially could be saving thousands of U.S. soldiers and Allied soldiers. I mean, that's fantastic. That's a great story in and of itself.
This is a song from your new album.
Yes, the Great
Pretty
War.
exciting. The Great War. Well, what about the All-American Division? What was it that grabbed
great
you?
album.
Was it Sergeant York, or was it the division itself? Or when you were looking at the Great War and thinking, okay, we've got to write a whole bunch of songs about this war, how did you choose just this specific topic?
Oh, specific topics. Man, it feels like for every Sabaton song we make, there are 10 stories we have to leave untold because
Okay.
they match. They don't really match. And with this one, it was really hard to find a story that matched the music in such a good way. Because, I mean, it's a catchy song.
I'm
It's
trying to see the
upbeat.
cameras
And
in his glasses.
I mean, at least the image in my mind of the Great War is not very cheerful. You know?
No.
So we needed something heroic to celebrate there. And when me and
So, I mentioned before, I used to work for a production company when I lived in Los Angeles, in California. And we've done music videos, we've done live shows, we've done concerts, we've done a whole lot of different things. And so when I watch TV shows or TV shows that I've done, or music videos that I've done, and movies that I've done, and I've done 2 movies, I love trying to catch cameras and different angles, like where they missed it or didn't edit it out correctly. So I'm trying to see the camera and his glasses, but I can't. And it looks like this is the rig for it, but I don't think it is. But I just, for some reason, love doing that.
Pat were writing the lyrics, it's one of those times when things
He does a good
flow
job of
smoothly.
focusing
Okay.
on Indy.
It very, very rarely does. When me and Pat are writing lyrics, we are always, well, not arguing in a bad way, but we're always, working at everything from every angle. Everyone is playing devil's advocate at the same time, trying to get the best out of it and how to approach the song, from which direction, how do we connect it emotionally with the music, lyrically,
Right.
and getting all of those things together. It's usually quite of a struggle, but not in this case. It just came naturally.
Now, you're presumably going to be playing all these songs from the Great War live, or at least a bunch of them when you're touring. How do you decide? How are you going to decide which ones you really want to play live? I mean, are there going to be
Hopefully
some
they
that are
come
just not going to
still.
be done live? Are you going to alternate things? Because you're going to obviously want to play a bunch of your hits and a bunch of popular favorites when you're
Absolutely. I mean, in the end, that's up to you guys. You
there
should
it
let
is.
us know, because
Okay,
we're going
there it
to
is.
start out now as,
Solve
with a bit
the
of a tour
four
going on
days.
here. I mean, we can choose a few songs and see how it works. But if they don't work out, of course we're going to change the set list.
Sure.
In most cases, we can predict a few songs.
I have a
that are
story
very
to tell you.
popular.
I want to wait
Especially
till the
for
end of this.
specific
So.
countries. Obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, on every album, we are totally mistaken about 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's up to the fans and you guys which songs are on the set list.
All right. Well, that is 82nd all the way, and this was Sabaton History.
18 all the way from Tennessee here to 123.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. And you know the drill. Playlist right there. Patreon. World War II. Time Ghost. See you soon. I dance great. Become Patreon.
He did not just do that. I dance great. Become Patreon. That was amazing ending. Great song, absolutely great song. And I've mentioned this before, and I know some of you guys' comments, you guys didn't like this song, or at least didn't like the cover when Amaranth did it. I think Amaranth's cover was amazing of the song. There's so much history involved in the Sabaton lyrics. Like, they are still, in my opinion, an underrated band, even though they have huge success in Europe and just hugely widely accepted among a lot of metal fans. These guys should be doing more history stuff in terms of schooling and teaching. Like, I want to hear about the stories of teachers using Sabaton teaching. Like, I could learn more in a 4-minute Sabaton song than I would in a 6-month-long history class. That probably says more about me than anything. But there's so much stuff that I really, really, really hope they do U.S. focused stuff, and I know that's probably not a popular idea when it comes to their worldwide fans, but there's a lot of American history that is getting lost, and a lot that's no longer getting taught, and I'm just like, it's really frustrating that some of the things aren't being as taught as they used to, or just being portrayed in such the worst way possible, like the movie The Patriot. I don't know if you guys ever had a chance to see the movie The Patriot. Understand it's 100% bogus and full of so much inaccuracies that it's like almost fiction. It's that bad. Saving Private Ryan, great historical points, but the story itself was completely fake. U-571, when the Americans captured a German U-boat to take over the Enigma machine, 100% bullshit. The U.S. did not have any involvement in that. That was the British. We stole the story from them. So, We Were Soldiers, super accurate. Wind Talkers, mixed accuracy. So it's like there's so much stories that I just wish could be shown for the value of what it is, and without this fluff and like the bullshit. Like Pearl Harbor, again, bullshit story. Yes, Pearl Harbor happened. Yes, it probably happened in the way that it's shown in the movie, but everything else is bullshit. They took. Sorry, I'm getting on this stupid long rant. But there's a lot of cool stories that I think could be told properly, and I believe Sabaton could be the ones to do it. But anyways, to the story that I mentioned when Joaquin was talking about setlist, believe it or not, there have been times at concerts where a band plays a song that they think the crowd will enjoy, and it's actually a dud. It was, happened 2 times. One, when I went to a Korn concert and they played a new song off their new album that was not yet released yet, so it's the first time the audience was hearing it, which is risky because they don't know the words, they don't know the beat, they don't know how it's going to play out, and they opened the show with it, and it was crickets. The 15,000 people, crickets. It's a fan-freaking-tastic song now that I know it, but it was kind of depressing. Happened later in the same show, actually, because Korn was opening for Slipknot. Slipknot played a song that they never played live, so it was one of their original songs off their self-titled album, but no one's heard it live, so no one really knew the song yet, if that makes sense. Like, it's on the album, it's at the time a 12-year-old album, and then no one's ever heard him play it live, and so the intro was different. It was just, and so like, I, being a huge Slipknot fan, no idea what the song was. It took me like 2 minutes to be like, oh, it's this song. I don't really listen to this song. It's not that popular. It's not that upbeat. It's not that heavy. It's kind of one of those ones you skip. But anyways, guys, huge long tangent. This is probably going to be my longest video, so I do apologize. So I'll put an intro video. I'm going to change my intro to add this. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for all those that stay tuned to the end. You guys are rock stars. Make sure you guys, of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I am moving soon. In about 2 weeks, I'll be moving. I'll have my own room. And so the area might be a little different with moving and with not sharing my wall with my girlfriend who gets mad at me when I record videos at 2 o'clock in the morning, which I'm doing right now. I'll be able to make probably more videos. So I may go back to uploading every day. Otherwise, I'm rambling. 30-minute video. You guys are awesome. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want me to react to next. Sabaton related, anything related. Any reaction, let me know. I'm going to do it. You guys have yourself a wonderful day and a great weekend. Wash your hands. Peace.